we take our next question, could you please tell us your name and where you're from and the grade level you teach?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Colin Kennedy. I'm from the state of Hawaii, and I teach 6 through 12. My question this morning, I guess building off what you just said, I was looking at the judging rubric, and I noticed that it isn't split up into presentation and question, answer, response. How much weight do you put on each one, and does it differ from group to group?
It doesn't differ from group to group for me. I haven't really thought about this, but I find certain parts of the rubric will apply differently. For example, responsiveness. I'll put more weight on responsiveness in the prepared remarks than I will on analysis or constitutional application frequently. If the presentation doesn't answer the questions, that is going to hurt responsiveness. But if there's not a lot of constitutional application in the presentation, that might not affect me so much. But I think every judge I've ever worked with has made the remark that they put, and I think it's appropriate, more weight on the follow-up questions. Because for all we know, the teacher has written every word of that presentation. I don't think that that happens, but for all we know, it could. And we really can't tell what the students know for sure, whether they own it, as we said, without seeing how they're doing with the questions and answers. So I think when the judges talk among themselves about how the schools have done, for instance, at the end of the session, we have 6 schools. How did you rank them? Why is this one better than that one? We're normally talking about how they did in the follow-up questions more than we're talking about the presentation.
Perhaps I can add another layer to that question before we take our next audience question. The rubric does not require the students to have memorized their opening statement. And of course, we know you're looking for some level of polish and ownership of that. But what would you advise a teacher that has 6 groups, each group learning three different questions? How relevant is that the kids have it memorized, no cards, papers, any difference at all?
No, there's no difference. I mean, we are told that that should not make a difference in our scoring, and I think we're able to follow that because either way can work or not work. A memorized presentation can be very effective, but it can also look like that they're reciting something by rote. On the other hand, notes the same thing. I'm a big believer, someone who professionally has lots of occasion to have to speak publicly. I'm a big believer that memorization, I mean, I'm not good at it and I don't do it, but if I'm going to read from a text, it should be every sentence should start a new paragraph. That's the best kind of text to read from. And I'm sort of surprised that more people don't do it that way. There's something about having each sentence on a different line or in a separate paragraph that makes it very easy for the eye to follow. But that, that's a practical one. I will say that the performance or presentation, I guess is the way the question was posed, is not in itself necessarily important, but I always think it's akin to like the questions you often get, well, on a history test, am I going to be graded for spelling or grammar? Well, not ostensibly no, but a paper that is, that is chaotic and misspelled and not written well is going to be more difficult to get to the substance and appreciate the substance that is being tested on than one that's not. So while I try not to score on presentation, a poised, clearly articulated presentation, equal substance of 2 different presentations, but one that's more polished, confidently given, clearly articulated. It's hard for me to believe that on some level that does not get scored better than the other.
So we have a question over here. And again, please tell us your name, where you're from, and the grade level you teach.
My name is Rob Peck, and I'm from Virginia, and I teach juniors and seniors. My question is there an attempt made to, when the judges are trained, I use that word in quotes because I'm not sure what kind of training happens, is there an attempt to normalize the judging in terms of what happens from panel to panel? If so, how is that done? And if not, why not?
Could you smile now?
It will depend on your answer.
First of all, let me tell you that I've been a substitute teacher at your high school.
Have you?
I have.
Now we're smiling.
I substituted, we can talk about it later, it's interesting. But yes, and it's a very fine school that you teach at.
Did I say my school?
No, but I happened to notice, I
Because
saw
that
the
creeped
list
me
of
out
the
just a little.
scholarship teachers. So your question is an excellent one, and I think one of the very best things about the We the People program in the National Finals is that it's a rarity in life because it's a meritocracy. We don't have this in this world. We don't have meritocracy. But in the We the People program, there's more effort to make this a meritocracy than anything else I've ever been involved with in my whole life. And one of the ways that they do that is that the judges are trained, I would almost say excessively, except it isn't really excessively because it's important, the appearance be important as well. Each of the judges is required to, I can't speak for what happens earlier in the program, but at the national level, each of the judges is required to attend a mandatory orientation program of 2 hours. And I've been a judge in the national finals. We've all been judges for a long time. I've been a judge, I think this is my 15th year doing this. And I went again to the orientation, and I again learned stuff that I hadn't really known or thought about. There's always something new with the orientation. And what do? Well, they describe a whole range of things, from what kind of feedback you should be giving in terms of some of the content and in terms of how you do it. And you can ask somebody about pancakes and peas if you want. And there's also a discussion. I'll tell you, when I first started this, I hadn't really dealt with high school students very much. And I will tell you, I'm not perfect. I've made students cry doing this program, not ever to be intentional, but I didn't really realize the sensitivity that students have. And they'll talk about that in the orientation. And they'll talk about what you should be expecting to judge the students on. Each of those questions in the rubric. What does that mean? And then with respect to what those means, what is a 5 answer? And what is an 8 answer? And what is a 3 answer? And trying to make the judges all apply the same thing, so that a judge who gives a 6 is the same as a judge who gives a 6 is the same as a judge who gives a 6. And there are many other things. I don't want to monopolize this, but I do want to just stress to all of you that the program does a tremendous job. Oh, and by the way, in addition to all the orientation they used to do about this, they now do part of the orientation where all the judges who do a particular unit, for the last several years, we get together and we go over the questions. And we don't say, what do we think is a perfect answer to these questions? But we think, what is the question getting at? And what do we think we might want to ask about? And we think about the substance too. So I can assure you the question is very good, and you should feel confident that your legitimate concerns about this have been addressed by the staff, and all the judges are very well trained. And the desire to eliminate arbitrariness and caprice from the judging process is given strong importance.